I think you're funny.
You're about the only one. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Fat Guys and Friends podcast. As always, joined by fellow fat man and good friend, Colton Bartholomew. I'm Logan Wenger. Hello, Bart.
Wang! We're back, man. Back doing some more NFL.
We're getting down there on these teams. We've done a lot, and now we're finally to the NFC South, where the best team in football was last year. That ended up losing to your Denver Broncos.
You're damn right they did.
Always fun to bring up the Super Bowl when Bart's around, because he won't shut the fuck up about it.
Yep, 6 to midnight over here, folks.
Oh, God damn it. But we are talking about the NFC South today, including the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Atlanta Falcons, Carolina Panthers, and New Orleans Saints. Where do you want to start, friend?
Well, you just said their name. Let's start in New Orleans, because I am not on the hype train that everyone else seems to be about Drew Brees and this team overall.
For as much as we've been disagreeing in these previews, we might be agreeing on this team.
Good.
There's only so many years that you can rely on Drew Brees with almost no weapons and a dog shit defense. Eventually, it's going to catch up to you.
I've been out on Sean Payton as a good coach for a long time, but I feel like people are finally starting to listen. Sean Payton's not a good coach. He made one stupid decision that happened to work out in his favor in the Super Bowl, and they won.
All it takes is one man, and you're remembered forever.
I understand that, but that's the thing. Football has this problem where we judge the decision on the result of the decision, and that's not right. You have to factor in, how dumb and just like that's dumb luck. That's lightning striking for that to work.
You're right. You're so right.
Oh God, it makes me mad when people are like, "But Peyton won a Super Bowl, dude." Like, yeah, he did. But what's he done since? He's been suspended for an entire year because he allowed his defensive coordinator to put out bounties on other guys, and then he's been under 500.
I remember Sean Payton for allowing people to put money out on injuring players like Brett Favre, which is wrong.
It happened. Yeah. We all saw it. We saw the video. And I just love the fact that Greg Williams has been on fucking Hard Knocks just saying the same shit. Like, we're gonna take people's heads off. We're gonna do this and that. Jesus Christ, man. There are cameras around.
Yeah, remember your past, guy. Like, you got in trouble for legitimately doing this. I know you're probably kidding, but don't say that. It's like a murderer getting out of jail and being like, "Yeah, we're gonna go kill him." Like, you're not allowed to say that anymore, guy.
Seriously.
You should pass on that.
All right, getting back to the Saints here. Wang, what do you have for the key pickups and departures?
Biggest thing they did is they got a new tight end. They added Coby Fleener from the Colts. They beefed up their defense by adding Nick Fairley, James Laurinaitis, and Robin Harper. And then for departures, they were all on the offensive side of the ball. They lost Kyrie Robinson, Benjamin Watson, and Marquise Colston.
Colston, I mean, it's weird because the Saints have always just said Breeze is the quarterback and he's just going to make everybody else better. But Colston would actually get open. And he was one of the few physical mismatches that they had. And I think that's going to be a bigger loss than they're originally anticipating here.
Yeah, Breeze throws the ball around a lot. And he's got a nice receiver in Brandon Cooks right now, who I don't think is overly great. But Colston is going to be a bigger loss than people realize. What him and Breeze had together, people are going to finally realize was something special.
For sure. And you mentioned bringing in Coby Fleener. Jimmy Graham was Breeze's favorite target while he was there. They ended up trading him for an offensive lineman a couple of years ago, and they definitely missed him. Ben Watson actually had a nice year last year, but he's Ben Watson. He's not. He's up there in age. He just got hurt with the Ravens. I think Coby Fleener being there, a little more athletic, a little faster, can get up and down the seam a little bit better. I think that's going to be a good benefit for Breeze. But I want to get into why I think this team's going to suck, because I just do not see them any better. You mentioned all the guys they brought in, and it's like, all right, and are you going to figure out how to block this year? Exactly. Is Drew Brees not going to throw 25 picks?
I said it in the opening. You can't rely. Yes, it's a quarterback-driven league, and they have a very good quarterback in Drew Brees. He's easily a top 10 quarterback. I don't think anybody could argue that.
No.
But he has no weapons. Like I said, Brandon Cook's a nice receiver. What other receivers do they have? They drafted, is it Michael Thomas? I don't even know where he went to college. Mark Ingram is pretty good at running the ball. I'm all in on Coby Fleener. I think Drew Brees is going to make him great. But I just don't see it translating to a lot of wins because their defense is awful. They've been awful for so long. I mean, yeah, they brought in some nice pieces. Nick Fairley was good with the Rams. It was kind of down with the Lions, so he could come back. James Laurinaitis is still a solid middle linebacker, but he's just one guy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's not going to turn the defense
lost a little
around.
bit of the speed that made him a better middle linebacker than he really was. Mm-hmm. You know, like he could cover so much ground that so it would make up for some of his deficiencies. But now when he's like the more prototypical kind of plotting middle linebacker, it's tough to keep up in today's NFL with that style.
Exactly. And I don't know if we're going to get in trouble for saying this, but he's white. And
white
linebackers
very white.
just struggle.
Also, what is he? He's the son of Road Warrior Hawk?
No, it's something. I know he's related to John Laurinaitis. I don't know if that's his dad or not. I think it's his uncle.
Uncle or son, whatever. He's associated with the Road Warriors, which is a great 80s wrestling tag team. So he goes up a little bit in the coolness book. But yeah, he's just an all-right player at this point.
Yeah,
but
totally.
To your greater point about how terrible this defense has been the last few years, they let up the most rushing and passing yards in the NFL last year. They finally changed coaches. They got rid of Rob Ryan.
Everybody's favorite Ryan.
Yeah, right. The even larger and longer-haired version of Rex Ryan.
Ever since Rex lost the weight, and I hate him for it. Rob's going to carry the weight forever, like a fucking fat guy should. Like,
yeah, man.
He can slim
you know
down,
what? He's an honorary fat guy and friend on the podcast here. Open invite, man. I know you're kind of coaching your brother's defense now, but open invite if you want to talk to some fat guys about being fat. Not even about football. Just being fat in your life.
We're going to send some emails, and we're going to get Rob Ryan on the show.
We're doing something like that, man.
Yeah, we gotta.
But
we should make it our life goal to get every fat analyst on our show.
Oh, it would be great. But you know, to the point. So Rob Ryan leaves. They didn't get that much better coaching wise. It's not like they brought in a Wade Phillips type or like a guy that's known that is gonna vastly improve their defense right now. And it's like, how can you go into this year with that secondary how it is and have any confidence?
Exactly, and they play in, I wouldn't say a wide open division, but because the Panthers are very good. They're obviously the cream of the crop in the South. But the Bucs and Falcons aren't anything to write home about. I mean, they could contend for a wild card spot just by beating up on those teams and trying to split with the Panthers. But
yeah, no, you're right. I mean, they
can't.
They're in a they have a competitive division in that it's been winnable. I mean, before last year when the Panthers blew up, that division had like 4 straight years of different winners and 2 straight years, I believe, of 500 or worse division winners.
Which is insane. That doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't happen. And obviously the Panthers, the guys that they drafted in their young core, developed and now they're great. But otherwise, yeah, you can contend in this division, but to contend, you've got to be able to stop the pass because you've got the Panthers offense who, you know, isn't a great passing team, but you're going to have Kelvin Benjamin to contend with. Then in Atlanta, you've got Julio Jones. And then in Tampa Bay, still developing, obviously, but Vincent Jackson and Mike Evans, I mean, you've got to be able to stop the pass, and New Orleans can't.
Yeah, and to go along with that, they all have good quarterbacks. Jameis Winston is up and coming.
I'm a big Jameis believer. We'll get to that, but I'm all in on Jameis.
Exactly. Cam Newton won the MVP last year. Matt Ryan is very in the middle, but a solid NFL quarterback. So you need it. Plus, it's just a passing league. People pass the ball a lot more. You need to invest in your secondary, and they don't.
It's crazy just because this is one thing that my dad and I always joke around about. He gets more angry about it than I do, but, you know, Katrina happens, Saints move, but then they move back, and hooray, yeah. team has their, or a city has their sports team back, and it's awesome. And then they get good and all this stuff. But good God, they make it sound like the Saints like saved the city from Katrina. It's like, no, number one, the city's still kind of shitty in parts because of the hurricane, and number two, like the team's just gotten worse since that win.
Yeah, that I don't even remember the guy's name, and it might sound insensitive, but that guy who now has ALS blocked that kick. They won the Super Bowl. Yep, they won the Super Bowl. Now he's in bad shape, and so is the team.
He is a direct correlation to the franchise. That's your soul right there, folks. That's what's happening to you.
Whew. That's bad news for the Saints.
Yeah, we got mean there. Let's jump to record predictions and continue the mean streak here.
Yeah, we're not good people when it comes to the record either. I don't see the Saints doing much this year. It's just because of the defense. I think they have enough on offense to win games, but their defense isn't going to stop teams enough to win more than they lose. So I have the Saints coming in at 5-11.
You and I are on the exact same train there, man. I think they're about to lose a lot of close games, but it's because their defense isn't going to be able to get off the field when they need to. I actually have them coming in at 4-12. I'm looking at their schedule. They've got tough games right out the gate here. They've got Oakland at home, and we talked about already how we feel about Oakland. They're going to be a solid team this year. Then they got to go up to the Giants, who they had that crazy high-scoring game with them last year, and then home for Atlanta and at San Diego. I feel like those are winnable games, but again, the defense I have no faith in.
I'm totally in agreement with you. So
all right, 4-12. I have it for
more
the Saints.
bad news.
You got them at 5-11 here.
Yeah. Let's stick with teams I think are going to be bad in the division. We'll go with the Atlanta Falcons next.
All right, Wayne. We're on the same wavelength here on the NFC South.
For all this disagreeing, we're finally found the division we agree on.
Seriously. All right. Talking about Atlanta in general here, we already mentioned Matt Ryan is upper mid-level. I don't know, 12 to 15 range.
Yeah, I was going to say
in the quarterbacks
best
of the NFL.
In the NFL.
Yeah, I mean,
14-ish.
He can win you some games, but he's probably going to cost you one or two a year because he likes to make some boneheaded throws.
It's better when Matt Ryan is good because I think he has one of the better nicknames in the NFL with Matty Ice.
Oh, I agree.
That could be just because I enjoy drinking Natty Ice, but who knows?
So, we both are in agreement that Ryan can win you some games, but he's going to lose you some. However, I want to revisit something that's just a philosophy thing with the Falcons here. A few years ago, they traded pretty much their entire draft and then like a part of the next year's draft to get Julio Jones. Now, you can't really contend that Julio Jones hasn't panned out because he's top 2-3 receivers in the league, however you want to slice it, production-wise and talent-wise. But it's like that draft and the subsequent inability to get and develop players on both sides of the ball is why the Falcons find themselves where they are, which is at the bottom of this division or near it and the bottom of the conference.
Yeah, it just comes back to the defensive side of the ball, which they are not very good on, just like the Saints.
Which is a problem because they hired Dan Quinn after the Seahawks won the Super Bowl, who was their defensive coordinator, and his whole thing was, I'm going to come in, make that defense good, the offense is already good, and then we're going to be a great team. And it's like, you didn't.
Yeah, it sounds great on paper, but it's hard to do.
And a lot of it's just talent.
Yeah, he's one of the better defensive minds in football too. Like he constructed the Legion of Boom and made them pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. But you think about the Falcons' defense, like I there's nobody that pops into my brain when I think Falcons defense that's like, oh, you got a game plan around that guy or avoid that guy.
Do they still have Deion Sanders? He was pretty good. I think that's the last good defensive player they had.
And we've already mentioned you have to be able to stop the pass in this division. And again, their secondary is suspect, which is just crazy to think because Dan Quinn comes from Seattle where that defense was built back to front. And then he comes in and they haven't been able to make enough moves to build anything back there.
Seattle, I think, was the first defense to be built back to front. Usually
exactly. If you look at the last three Super Bowl winners, like that's the formula.
Yeah, it had been from the NFL for so many years. Get your good defensive line, get really good linebackers, and hopefully they can rush the passer to make up for your shit corners. Seattle's like, no, that's stupid. We're going to cover really well, and hopefully our shit defensive linemen can get to them. That eventually developed into really good defensive linemen who just fucked offenses.
Exactly, and we're just going to drop back 7. If you find somebody really fast, that's your only chance, because eventually we're going to get a coverage sack. And then, like you said, they got Michael Bennett to develop and Bruce Irvin to develop into great rushing guys. But looking at the Falcons here, I don't see enough either coming in through the draft or free agency this year that gives me too much hope. But did we do their acquisitions and departures yet?
Not yet. There's not a lot to say. They added Mohamed Sanu, who's an okay receiver. Alex Mack is a very good center, but still just a center. And Courtney Upshaw on the defensive side of the ball to try and get a little bit of a pass rush. Courtney Upshaw is the only player on that defense I can name now, and that's because I looked it up earlier. And for key departures, I have Roddy White, who basically was a departure last year because I don't think he played a snap.
Yeah, he was there in spirit, but just physically was not able to go. Which,
didn't do a lot.
Unfortunate, because it always seemed like he was a nice enough guy, and I think he was up for like Walter Payton Man of the Year a couple of times. But yeah, he's out. He gone.
Yeah, and he's not on a team yet either. So he's
no.
He's
I think he went up
gone.
to Tennessee, correct?
Or
something dumb like that.
I don't know.
Who cares?
He's not notable anymore.
Yeah. Offensively, here, this is to our fantasy playing friends, who seems to be pretty much everybody at this point.
Yeah, everybody plays fantasy football.
I don't get the love for Devonta Freeman.
Nope, me neither.
Like, he had a phenomenal first half of last year when the Falcons actually looked good. But then after week 8, when they fell apart, that guy disappeared.
It was so weird. Like, he was undrafted in fantasy drafts last year, and he came out of nowhere, had a hell of a first half of the season, and then I don't know what happened. He just went away.
I mean, the whole team went away outside of Julio.
That's true.
But
I mean, Julio helps because they couldn't just stack the box against Devonta Freeman. But even when they weren't stacking the box, he just wasn't the same running back in the second half of the year.
And then they have Tevin Coleman backing him up, which doesn't inspire any type of fear. And to me, the thing that this division was won with last year was front 7 and running game in Carolina. And then it's like nobody else looks at that and says, hey, maybe we should try to adopt some of these things. Yeah,
the way it's such a copycat league, not in the NFC South. They're like, I'm going to do my own thing, and the Panthers can win every year forever.
Exactly.
For whatever reason, they don't want to be like the Panthers and try and contend.
You know, Matt Ryan is going to either, I feel like, get the Falcons fan base back with him, or I feel like this might be the year where he becomes like the GOAT. Because
people finally turn on him?
Yeah, I think like there's been probably 3 years straight here where it's like Matt Ryan's elite, he's a top 5 guy, and then he looks like it once in a while, and then suck and cost him a game. It's like, oh well, that was Mike Smith's fault. Oh no, we changed coaches. Well, now it's Joe Blow on the left side's fault. No, it's at this point it's Matt Ryan, and it's on his shoulders now.
Matt Ryan has slowly morphed from like a top 6 quarterback to like he's top 8 to like, oh, he's easily top 10. Now he's like he's top half.
Yeah.
Ish.
Definitely top half. Wherever. That's the thing. If you said to me he's number 16 or he's number 11, I'd be like, yeah, all right.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue either one of those.
Yeah, exactly. Like, okay. Well, however you feel about him.
The one thing that you can just say about Matt Ryan, he's better than Jay Cutler. And
yeah.
You're right.
I feel like, yeah. Jay Cutler is the ultimate, like, right in the middle because his bad is probably the worst there is, but his good can be, up there with, like, the best of the best.
Exactly. It's so weird how hot and cold Cutler can be, but fuck Cutler, he's not in the NFC South.
Yeah, but Matt Ryan's the same way, to your point. Just absolute hot and cold. Because when he gets rolling, especially when Julio's getting open a bunch like he always seems to, like, he can look great. And then other times he'll throw lazy little out routes that get, taken to the house, and it was not even a competitive throw.
Which is very confusing. And we already talked about their defensive struggles where, like I said, I can name Courtney Upshaw because I saw him on the acquisitions list, and I don't know who else they have.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Can you name another Atlanta Falcon defender?
I know they had a corner that was okay.
Well, I think they have at least 4 or 5 corners on the team. I would hope so.
Yeah, they might have tried to fill out that position, but no. To your point, the defense is pretty no name, and
so I think because of that reason, if we want to move over to our record predictions, we are both not very high on the Atlanta Falcons. I'll let you go first on this one.
Okay. You look at the Falcons' schedule, and it's rough to start. Let me give you the first 6 games here. Home for Tampa, at Oakland, at New Orleans on a Monday night, home for Carolina, at Denver, at Seattle.
It is brutal.
That is rough. I mean, honestly, for how I think everything's going to shake out, the only winnable game in those is the Tampa Bay game at home. And only because it's at home.
100% agree. In their first 6 games, I have them going 1-5, winning that Tampa Bay game.
See, actually, I have them going 0-6. I think it's going to be a year from hell for Atlanta. My overall prediction for them is they will be a 5-11 team, and one of those wins will be lucky that they shouldn't have gotten.
Well, even though we disagree on the first 6 weeks, we agree on the 16 weeks, because I also have them going 5-11 and not being very good.
It's a combination of the roster not being great, and then those first 6 games I just read off, those are all easily losable. Especially home for Carolina, they're going to lose that game probably. At Oakland, at Denver, at Seattle in back-to-back weeks. That's a gauntlet right there.
Ugh. It's going to be rough in Atlanta.
Yeah. All right. 5-11 for both of us there. Let's jump over to a team I feel like you and I are going to disagree a little bit on in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here.
I think the Buccaneers are the most confusing team coming into this season because I can see them either going 5-11 and I'd be like, yeah, okay, they're not very good. And I could see them going 9-7 and accidentally making a wild card and being like, yeah, okay, they're pretty good.
I completely agree with the high and the low for this team because the wheels could just fall off under Dirk Cutter and this is just a train wreck and they go, like you said, 4-12, 5-11-ish, or everything can break right and all the young guys that they've got on both sides of the ball have a great season and they're contending for a wild card spot. I'm a little bit closer to that high end. I love Jameis Winston. I watched all the pre-draft stuff before last draft and loved his attitude, and I loved how just he owned all the dumb shit he did in college, which there was a lot,
Yeah, he wasn't a very good young man at Florida State.
Did a lot of very dumb things, and depending on who you believe, some rapey felony type things.
If there's one thing I hate in sports, it's if you get accused of rape, you should be gone away forever.
Yeah, I mean, that's a topic for another day. We'll get into it, but
yeah, that was me 100% kidding because I'm a massive Pittsburgh Steelers fan.
Okay, fair enough.
As long as they win games, who gives a shit? Am I right? Sports.
Oh my God,
we should probably stop.
We're going to hell.
We're going to get in trouble.
You're the married one. Have fun with that one.
Jameis Winston's good and stuff.
Jameis Winston is good. He is a talented dude. The thing I loved about his season last year, he goes out in their debut against Tennessee, and it is a fucking mess. Yeah. Threw 4 or 5 picks, 2 of them taken back for touchdowns.
He threw a pick 6 on his first ever pass.
Yeah, exactly. Just looked terrible. But then came back, and until week, I think, 14, they were contending for that last wild card spot in the NFC, which was, more of a representation of how weird the NFC was last year. But they were in there until they lost a dumb game at Indianapolis that they shouldn't have lost. But I like how he plays. I like the way he carries himself, and I like the weapons they have around him. like we mentioned earlier, they got Mike Evans and Vincent Jackson outside. They've got Doug Martin in the backfield, who they like to ride and give 25 carries a game to take some pressure off. And their tight end position, if Austin Seferian-Jenkins is mentally there, which is apparently a problem, he's a huge mismatch physically. He's 6'7", like 250, and he can get open over the middle and make a lot of good catches. And then their backup tight end, pride of Naperville, Illinois, grew up like 2 blocks from him, Cam Brate. Just wanted to get that in there. He's all right. I mean, he's white and he can't block, but he can catch.
Well, if you're white and can't block, why the hell are you a tight end in the NFL?
Size. He's 6'4", 6'5".
Well, that'll help. Good for him. But I am with you on the Tampa Bay offense. I think Jameis Winston is only going to get better from his rookie season. I think he proved that at the end of last year. I'm all in on Mike Evans. I think he is poised for a breakout year because he gets a ton of targets, and I think Vincent Jackson is on the decline. He's getting older. Even last year, he was showing signs of aging. He was even hurt for parts of last season. But Doug Martin, I think he is the best-kept secret in the NFL. People don't talk about Doug Martin, and they just ride him to touchdowns like nobody's business. I mean, he had a down year the year before last year, which was understandable. But he came back this past season and balled out hard.
Agreed. And I know there was a lot of questions about the change from Lovie Smith, who was the former Bucs coach, to now Dirk Cutter. And a big part of it was because Lovie Smith was so conservative with the offense that he wouldn't take those shots downfield because he's a guy that likes to run 2005 type offenses where you run it twice and then throw on third down.
And then hope for the best on third.
Exactly. And it's like you mix up the talent they have, like you said, with Doug Martin and the guys they have on the outside. You mix up a little more creative offense, get some more deep shots down the field to get the box open for Doug Martin. I think this offense could be a top 12, top 13 offense in the league this year, points and yards-wise.
Yeah, they are definitely on their way to being one of the better offenses in the NFL. I think year 2 for Jameis, like I said, will be better, but he's still learning. He still has a little way to go to get this offense to like the top tier NFL offenses, but he's paired with the right guys. Him, Mike Evans, and Doug Martin could turn into one of the better trios in the NFL.
Agreed. And defensively, I like some of the moves they made. They brought in. Actually, before I get into that, why don't you give us the acquisitions and departures there?
Oh, yeah,
you'll say some of the names I'm talking about.
Yeah, we're not very good at this.
Nah, we're doing. We're on week or division number 7 here. Fuck it, we're going at it.
Nah, that's true. I just want to talk about games. This is stupid.
We're 2 days away. We're recording this on Tuesday, everyone.
Yeah. Oops. Bucks added J.R. Sweezy, decent offensive lineman, Robert Ayers on the defensive side of the ball, and Brent Grimes. And for departures, they lost Logan Mankins to retirement and Bruce Carter, a pretty talented linebacker.
Brent Grimes was what I was going to talk about. I love him at the cornerback spot for them. He was very good in Miami.
He's been very good everywhere.
Yeah, he can do a lot of things. The problem that they've seemed to have in their secondary is they just haven't had enough consistency. They've had so many guys going in and out with injury, signing different guys. I mean, Lovey basically made their safeties the 2011 Bears, which weren't good. But, I feel like now with Grimes at the one corner, they drafted Hargraves for the other corner. He might end up playing some nickel. We'll see how that all shakes out for him. But I like the way their secondary is going. And then their defensive line, you mentioned bringing in, who'd you say, Sweezy? No, Robert Ayers, excuse me.
Robert Ayers. On the defense,
yeah. And then Gerald McCoy's already there. There's some things to be excited about in that Bucs defense. And not even to mention Quan Alexander, their linebacker.
Yeah, they're same with their offense. They're an up and coming defense. It's just the Bucs are just a young team overall, and they've been bad for so long. So I feel like this culture of losing is instilled in the locker room, where they just need to break that mold, which they did a little bit last year, being in contention almost to the end of the season. But I think this year is really when they're going to step out of the losing seasons, hopefully get closer to 500, and then start flirting with above 500 records. Just because when you lose for so long, you just expect to keep losing because it's just what it's like when you do anything for so long. It's like why we're fat. Like we've been eating for so long, so we just keep eating and eating, and now we're like, oh, we're fat for the rest of our lives.
And you're like, well, fuck it. I'll keep buying bigger shirts.
Exactly. Right. And then they go up to like 5X now.
See?
What a society to live in.
What a time. What a time.
You can buy extra large shirts. That's 5. That's like Booker T back in the day. 5 time X shirts. Back to the Buccaneers. They're hopefully up and coming and breaking their losing ways.
And you look at a guy like Jameis Winston who walks on to the Florida State, or not walks on, but gets his scholarship, plays at Florida State, wins the national championship, then gets into the playoff his second year, has an embarrassing loss. But he's a guy that's just so used to winning that I feel like he's a guy that can help break that mold. The more young players that they get that come from good programs and have had a lot of success that can bring that positivity, that can help break that stuff. And then I feel like they started to clear house with some of the guys that were there for some of the down years. Obviously, changing the coaching staff helps. They got rid of some guys like Major Wright and Chris Conti who were just kind of there because Lovie Smith was there. Mm-hmm. But
it's like what Mike Singletary said back in the day. I need winners.
Winners.
You can make fun of Mike Singletary all you want, but fucking guy was right. You need winners if you want to win.
Aside from not being a great head coach, the guy is universally regarded as a phenomenal position coach.
Yeah, one of the best defensive minds from playing to coaching ever in the NFL.
Yeah. All right, let's jump into the Buccaneers record prediction here. I'll start it off. I would be higher on them if their schedule wasn't as tough as it is early.
It's very tough early.
Yeah, their bye week is week 6, and their first 5 games at Atlanta, as we mentioned before, a losable game for Buccaneers, even though they probably should win. Then at Arizona, that's a tough one, obviously. Home for Los Angeles. I think the Rams are going to be shitty, so they should win that one. But then home for Denver, and then at Carolina. Then the bye week. That is a tough 3-game or 5-game stretch there. You've got 3 teams who are in either the Super Bowl or the conference championship game last year.
Yeah, three of the best teams from last year's season.
Yes.
Not good.
Yeah, and 2 of them on the road in Arizona and Carolina. But thankfully for them, their late season is pretty easy. They have a 4-game stretch here where they go at San Diego, home for New Orleans, at Dallas, and then at New Orleans. So they're even if they stumble early, which is very possible, they've got the opponents and they've got time to make it up. So I've got them going 8-8, narrowly missing a wild card spot, but definitely moving things in the right direction and being a team that can contend probably next year.
I was secretly hoping that we would have the same record for every team because we were 2 for 2 to start. And for the Bucs, we are off by 1 game. I have them coming in at 7-9.
Okay.
So getting better, but still middle of the pack team. I hope this is the year that they can turn things around. I mean, we talked about their offense is up and coming. I think their defense can keep them in games, but ultimately lose them a few games. But that opening stretch of games, like you mentioned, I have them starting off 0-5, and then rallying from that. Yeah, it's going to be a tough start in Tampa Bay, I think, but I think they're going to right the ship to some extent and come in at 7-9.
Gotcha. I mean, just to your point, I just want to make sure you're aware that you've got them going 7-4 over the last 11 weeks. Then.
Oh yeah.
I love it. All right, cool.
Yeah, Jameis is good enough to. I mean, you said it last year. They were in contention almost to the end of the season, so they can turn
I love
around
me some
the second
Jameis.
half.
One of my best friends is a Tampa Bay fan, and I text him all throughout the pre-draft stuff. Jameis over Mariota. I'm out on Mariota. I'm all in on Jameis.
I wouldn't say I'm out on Mariota, but I would say Jameis is better.
All right. Well, for another time. All right, let's move to the best team in the division, clearly, and I think we're both going to be in agreement about around where the record's going to be here. The Carolina Panthers obviously end their season last year, losing to the Denver Broncos in the Super Bowl, 24-10.
Oh, I forgot.
I'm glad I reminded you then, and of the score.
You're here to remind me every
I know.
fucking
I'm
time
a phenomenal friend. And, as a side note, your boy Bart made like $120 on that game.
Cool,
Gambling.
dude. Your favorite team won and you fucking gambled on them. That's illegal, by the way. So you better hope a cop doesn't listen to this.
Illegal-ish. But.
Oh, so if I cook a little bit of meth, it's only illegal-ish.
Yes, to a certain amount, yeah, I would say so.
I don't think you know the law very well.
I might not. That's a good point. But
we don't. It's not fat guys and law friends.
Yeah, my law degree's in the mail. I got lost.
Got it from the University of Phoenix.
That's right. Exactly. ITT Tech did a law program. Jumped right on it. All right, for the Panthers, Wang, what are their key acquisitions and departures here?
Key acquisitions was none. They added absolutely nobody. Their biggest acquisition, I would say, is Kelvin Benjamin coming back from his ACL injury.
I would say that's an acquisition, yeah.
Yeah, and for departures, really not that many either. They lost Roman Harper in division, who went to the Saints. And their other loss was Jared Allen, who played for like 6 games and then broke his foot in the playoffs. So really, they're bringing back the exact same team.
Well, you've got 2, actually.
Oh, did I?
You've been great on these. I'm not trying to hate. But Josh Norman at cornerback.
Oh, yeah. He left. Wow, yes. I'm stupid.
Norman, and then Charles Tillman, who actually had a nice little end career run down in Carolina. He ended up retiring, too, after suffering a pretty bad knee injury in the NFC Championship game. But
yeah, you're better at this than I am.
No, it's just, I as a Bronco fan, having to start the season against them, I've done a lot of research on this team. So, let's start with that defense, because as great as the offense was and how good Cam was, that team was defense first. And the losses of Tillman was kind of lost not early last season, but last season, and it didn't affect a ton. But Norman and just having to start a new person at the other corner, those are a lot bigger issues than I think people are giving them credit for. Because we talked about earlier how the old formula is that front-to-back building. You build in the front 7, then you kind of fill in the backs, or the defensive backs as necessary. And that's kind of how the Panthers did it, because they have Ron Rivera, who's an old-school coach, played with the 85 Bears, and he has a monstrous front 7, which we'll get into, but secondary-wise, they are not great.
No, not by any means.
They help them out by running very consistent coverage. They're a cover 3 team. That's their base coverage. It's kind of what Seattle does as well. They're going to play the same thing every play, but they're just going to dare you to try to find an open spot. I think that's going to be an issue for the Panthers. Their defense is not going to be as dominant as it was last season. I still think they're going to be very, very good, because that front 7 is monstrous with Kuechly and Thomas Davis at the linebackers, and then guys like Kawan Short and who was that, like Coney Ely on the D-line.
Mm-hmm. But there's no way they can be as dominant. I mean, the Panthers went 15-1 last year when nobody saw them really being the number 1 seed in the NFC at all coming into the season. So I don't think there's any way that they can repeat that level of dominance, because the dominance was on the defensive side of the ball. Like, sure, Cam won the MVP and made a lot of spectacular plays, but their defense won them a lot of games last year.
Totally agree. And you look at the way that they just ransacked some teams early and then just kind of rode it out, like especially in the playoffs. You look at the Seattle game. Seattle ended up coming back and making it competitive, but they were up 35-0. And then the Arizona NFC Championship game, that was a joke after the first quarter.
That was
And
bad.
that's what happens with that defense. That defense just gets rolling, and they just don't let you get first downs. So it becomes a time of possession thing for the other offense. It's a very well-built team that's drafted well in the last few years. Obviously, you get Cam and Kuechly in the span of 5 years. 2 franchise players playing the leader spot on either side. I mean, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, both in the top 3 at their position group. Kuechly's the best middle linebacker in the league, and Cam is in the discussion for best quarterback in the league. I mean, he won MVP last year, so he has to be.
Mm-hmm. And the question mark I think that will emerge here is, can other teams follow what the Broncos did in the Super Bowl against the Panthers this season? It's going to be obviously very tough because Denver had a generational type defense of super physical and fast and good corners and a front 7 that just would not let you run the ball.
And 2 of the best edge rushers probably in NFL history with
Yes,
DeMarcus Ware.
exactly. And then, you've got instant pass rush without blitzing when you have Von Miller and Marcus Ware. But if other teams can get pressure on Cam without blitzing and then force him to throw from the pocket, because that was always a book on him. Don't let him get moving. Don't let him make plays with his feet, because that's where he really beats you. If you make him sit in the pocket and throw, he has trouble. Most of the season last year, he was still good in the pocket. But when the Broncos were finally able to get pressure with just 4 guys, or maybe a delay guy coming once the back was just blocking in the backfield, he was just super uncomfortable, made a lot of bad passes in the Super Bowl, a couple that were intercepted. And as a person that's watched Super Bowl on YouTube 6-7 times, Cam Newton could have easily made some plays and made that, and probably won that game, but he just was so uncomfortable in the pocket, he wasn't there. So I think that's going to be something that follows Carolina all year. Can other teams do that, make Cam uncomfortable, but make him stay in the pocket?
It was the only time last season that Cam was uncomfortable to the point that he made bad plays. Because like you said, other teams made him uncomfortable and he scrambled out of the pocket, but it's almost like he got better then. And then teams dared him to stay in the pocket, and that was where he was about the only quarterback in the league you wanted to stay in the pocket, and then he would make bad decisions. But he worked on that last season, and that's why he won the MVPs, because he finally turned into a good pocket passer who could run when he needed to, instead of being a glorified running back who was playing quarterback.
Fair. And you mentioned earlier having Kelvin Benjamin come back. I mean, Devin Funchess had a great season last season as a rookie. A lot better than most people expected coming out of Michigan. Slide him back to the number 2 receiver, which he really is, and then you keep Ted Ginn in the slot. He's going to have guys that can get open and guys that he can throw to, and especially when they get down in the red zone, then Greg Olsen becomes even a bigger factor at tight end. I mean, you could make a convincing argument that outside of Gronk, Greg Olsen's the number 2 tight end in the league.
Yeah, Gronk is just a freak.
Gronk's not fair.
Far and away the best, might even be the best offensive weapon in the NFL. But Gronk
I would agree with you there.
It's just insane.
Him or Antonio Brown, you could argue either way and be right.
So it's who's number 2 when it comes to tight end, and I would agree. I think it's Greg Olsen. I mean, you can make the argument that Jordan Reed came on strong last year in Washington, or who are the other tight ends? I don't even know who the other top tight ends are.
Yeah, I mean, those guys are so far and away better than the rest of the pack. It's those 2 and maybe Travis Kelce, a distant third.
And I mean, you've got to give the nod to Olsen because he's done it for longer. I mean, Reed came out of nowhere last year with Washington. And Olsen's been doing it. Even when Olsen was with the Bears, he was a solid tight end.
Man, when the Bears end up, I don't know if it was a trade or releasing him or whatever it was, I was like, what are you doing? This guy's great. And he's just continued to be great.
A 4th-round pick. It's like what they did with Brandon Marshall. Why?
But they also had a really good running game, the Panthers did last year, running not as much option stuff as they were in the past, but enough of it to keep defenses honest. And that's something that I think we're going to see continue, because if you're in the NFL, they had about a year and a half there where nobody just seemed to be able to stop the read option. They just couldn't, for whatever reason, they just forgot all the fundamentals of it because they're in the pros. But once they got it figured out, guys like Kaepernick and Wilson, they stopped doing it so much, and now it's just become, on a 3rd and short, do I hand it or I pull it? And the Panthers are in that same situation where they have a guy who can make huge plays running the ball, as bigger than your linebackers that are trying to tackle him with Cam Newton.
Yeah, the read option is just another gimmick that was around for a while and then went away. I compare it a lot to the Wildcat. I mean, the Wildcat came out of nowhere, and the Dolphins beat the Patriots, and everyone was like, "Oh my God!"
And then the Broncos beat the Patriots with it too, with Noshawn Moreno and Willis McGahee.
Is Ronnie Brown a top 5 quarterback that nobody knew about? No, they didn't expect him to throw the ball, and he accidentally threw for 3 touchdowns and ran for 2 others. It's just a gimmick thing. Same with the read option. I mean, the read option sticks around a little more because it's an actual football offense. Instead of having your running
you're
back
still lined up in a real offense.
Yeah, you're not having a guy in the 20s play quarterback, which isn't what you do in the NFL. But with the right offense, or with the right quarterback, I should say, it can still be very effective, just not every play. Which is your Kaepernicks, your Griffins, your Newtons, your Wilsons. Those are really the main guys that can run that. And then Cam is probably the best at it.
For sure. And I think maybe him and Roethlisberger are the only guys that you get a little bit ahead of steam, and it's like he's going to fall forward in front of pretty much everybody, just because of their size, and it becomes such a mismatch when he just decides to tuck and run it.
In the league. They tower over everyone. Cam is like 6'4", like 250, and Roethlisberger's 6'5" and listed at like 250. I bet he's closer to like 275.
Yeah,
he's
the
only
big
quarterback.
Man.
He's the only quarterback in the league with a double chin, and I don't mean that in a bad way. He's just big.
He's a big dude. All right, I feel like we're both. I might have the Panthers a little bit inflated here, just because of their schedule. But let's jump over to our record predictions. I'll have you go first this time.
All right, for this one, like I said, I don't see them going 15-1 again and just stomping everybody. I think people have learned that Cam can produce from the pocket now, and you're not going to beat that defense easily, but from year to year you can learn things just from watching film and try and find different ways to beat that defense. So I do think the Panthers will win that division easily, and I have them coming in at 11-5 and getting the number 2 seed in the NFC playoffs.
Interesting. Okay. I've got them a little higher than that. I agree with you that they're not going to be dominant like they were last season, just running away with games. But I still just think the way that their schedule shakes out and the talent that they have, and they could go either way. They could be the team that loses the Super Bowl, comes back the next year pissed off and just dominates, or they can come back, have it just ruin everything and they fall apart. I'm leaning more towards they're going to be good again. Their bye week is also week 7. Week 7. This is their first 6 games. At Denver on Thursday, then home for San Fran, home for Minnesota, at Atlanta, home for Tampa, at New Orleans. Those are 6 winnable games right out the bat.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So then you start looking at the rest of their schedule. They get Arizona at home. That's probably their hardest game the rest of the year. Home for Kansas City. They go to Seattle, which they beat Seattle in Seattle last season, and they beat them again in the playoffs. They are definitely not intimidated by the Seahawks, and they seem to have the ability to beat those guys. So just the way their schedule shakes out and who they have to play, I've got them going 14-2.
Oof.
I know it's a little high, and it's only 1 game less than the 15-1 they went last year, but just they have the personnel and the formula to beat these teams that they're playing, and I like them. 14-2, and then I've got them being the number 1 seed in the NFC again.
The team that loses a Super Bowl almost always comes back a little worse for whatever reason. So
you're not wrong there. So it'll be interesting to see if they can buck that trend or if they can just fall right back into it. But to go back over the NFC South here, I've got Carolina going 14-2 and winning it, being the number 1 seed. Tampa going 8-8. Atlanta 5-11. New Orleans 4-12.
We have the exact same order on this division. I have the Panthers winning at 11-5. Bucks coming in at number 2 at an improved 7-9. Falcons and Saints tied at the bottom of the division at 5-11.
All right. That was your NFC South preview from the Fat Guys and Friends podcast, which you can find online on YouTube, Fat Guys and Friends. Just search that and you'll find our page. You can find us on the Twitter machine, Fat Guys and Like Nancy Friends. And then you can also email us at fatguysandfriends@gmail.com. We don't get nearly enough emails, Wang. I can't believe these people don't email us.
We got one from a friend, and it was saying that we don't talk about Harambe enough, which I agree.
Sorry, totally Harambe, everybody. Dicks out for Harambe. I mean, just a tragedy.
Sure. We can do an entire podcast on Harambe.
Yeah, exactly. And then thanks to Wang's Wizardry, we are also on iTunes, so you can download, subscribe, get all those to your fancy little phones, and do whatever you want with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We will be back very soon to hopefully be wrapping up soon our NFL previews, so then we can get back to talking about wrestling and other dumb stuff, because there's been some other things going on besides the NFL, but the NFL is the best sport and the best time of year, especially right now when there's all anticipation and you just want to see some games.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot of NFL. We completely grazed over SummerSlam, which was wrong of us, but
it was wrong, but
we're busy guys.
We are. I mean, this guy's married. Look at this guy.
Technically. We'll see
all
how
right,
long it lasts.
Everyone. We'll be back soon. Thank you for listening.
Goodbye.